I'm Dave Schreier. I will be your chairperson for the AI and Deep Learning track today. We've got a very exciting lineup of speakers, and I can't wait to get started. Artificial intelligence is a topic that I personally am very passionate about. I've noted that the ancient Greeks dreamed of machines that could think, but they did not have the technology to make it possible. 2,000 years later, some MIT computer scientists created a program called ELIZA that convinced people that it was a real live psychotherapist, and they interacted with it. But it was just a set of pre-programmed responses. It was not artificial intelligence. Only in the last decade or so has AI technology matured to the point where it has had a meaningful and profound impact on our lives and our societies. And we're going to get into that in our track today. But before we get started, we thought it would be fun to do a little Slido poll to kick things off. So if we can put it up on the screen here, if you go to slido.com and look in the room Cyberdome, or if you look in the app, the Money20 app, you'll see the poll under Cyberdome. Do you think that AI will automate your job away? So it's a yes-no question. I'm going to track here on the iPad. Everyone take a minute and just answer briefly. Do you think AI will automate your job away? All right, so far we have one response. Come on, we can do a little better than that. Ah, here we go. Now it's coming in. Okay. All right, so if you go to slido.com and look in the room Cyberdome, or go on the app under Cyberdome, you'll see the poll question. And why don't we start looking at the results up here on the screen while this is populating. Okay, so, a room full of optimists. Excellent. All right, so it looks like most of you think that, in fact, AI is somehow going to enhance or at least be neutral to your professional lives. And, oh, by the way, if I can ask everybody to please silence your cell phones. Put them on vibrate. That will be good for the rest of us as we go through the day. Okay, now we are going to welcome to the stage Kartik Gada, who is going to share with us similar content to what he presents in his program at Stanford University on automation in financial services, hype versus reality. Kartik, please come on up.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for making it out. It's very early on a Sunday. But this is an exciting time in artificial intelligence and an exciting time in fintech. So where are we going to be with artificial intelligence? And what are some things that, outside of what you may see in the media, including questions about what will happen to your job, hopefully you'll come away from this 20-minute presentation with some new thoughts about how to look at artificial intelligence and how it is, in fact, a tool that you can use. So without further ado. So why has artificial intelligence become important now? Technically, artificial intelligence began in 1950 with Alan Turing. And in the 1980s, there was another AI peak, but this was before the internet and even before the personal computer for the most part. And it went quiet. But returned again because of two particular technological exponential trends that converged around the same time. One was parallel computing. And since artificial intelligence runs on neural networks, which is a type of framework that is best run by parallel computing, everyone thought that parallel computing was still several years away. The laptop or desktop PC you have at home is serial computing. It cannot process neural nets as well. And that's why people stopped talking about neural nets for about 25 years, and it was a forgotten term unless you studied it in engineering way back in the 20th century, like a lot of people in AI did. And then you have suddenly a different product in a different industry. NVIDIA created a chipset for video game graphics called the GPU, Graphical Processing Unit. And lo and behold, it also runs neural networks. That's why NVIDIA is probably the luckiest corporation of our time, because their hardware, their chip, is the one that most of the AI industry runs on, even though it was a product they didn't even intend for that. Their stock price rose 2,000%. Talk about being very lucky. But now you have at least an off-the-shelf, low-cost method of parallel computing, 7 to 10 years than what was expected from just serial computing found in most computers, desktop and laptop. And the second big trend is big data. Now, the amount of data we have now is considered big because it's much more than 3 years ago, but 3 years from now we'll have much more still. But that was another exponential trend. And now you had these two trends in completely different industries being worked on by different people in different companies, colliding into one. What happened here? Is it on the screen? Did it get turned off? There's nothing on the screen. Yeah. So while they fix that, think about the exponential trends that you see in many sectors and how the real hard-to-predict disruptions are ones where you have two exponential trends with very different people colliding into one. That's when you get not only a double exponential, but something nobody was thinking about. A lot of the great product disruptions that have occurred have been the byproduct of this, and especially with artificial intelligence. The other concept to think about, which we'll see in a chart when it returns, is that human beings are structured or wired to think linearly. And since technology is exponential, very few people can truly understand that for the majority of the time that you take in observing a technology, it seems like there's almost no progress. And then almost all the progress occurs in the very end, which I'll show you in the graphic. Yeah. If you think it's hard for people to see an exponential trend relative to a linear one, it's even harder to see it when there's no visual aid. So yeah. Now, one of the other things that artificial intelligence kind of suffers from, more so than any other technology, is it doesn't get any respect. And by that I mean, whenever a type of artificial intelligence succeeds, it is no longer called artificial intelligence. It gets called something else. And each milestone being put in front of artificial intelligence will ultimately be minimized after that milestone is met. Now, one of the pictures I'd like to show you is, in the 1980s, they said that when an AI is better than a human at playing chess, humans are obsolete. In 1997, suddenly, there was an artificial intelligence who defeated the best chess player of that time, Garry Kasparov. And this is a slide I really want, because I wanted to show his facial expression when he was being beaten by a machine and the facial expression of the audience there. So we'll definitely look at that when it comes back. And so everyone was frightened. Oh, we heard that when this happens, then humanity is obsolete and we have nowhere to go. But then the next day, oh, OK, nothing happened. Chess is too easy. Let's find a more difficult challenge for artificial intelligence. In the 2000s, they said, when an AI can beat a human at Jeopardy, then humans are obsolete. Now, lo and behold, in 2011, IBM Watson defeated the two best players in Jeopardy in the world, the equivalent of Garry Kasparov of Jeopardy. And it didn't beat them by a little bit, it was beating them by a lot. Because they said, oh yeah, Jeopardy should be harder because you have to understand the question, you have to use certain grammar, everything. That didn't work. And then they wanted to get an even harder challenge. There's a supposedly very difficult game called Go, which is played in China, Japan, South Korea. I doubt more than one or two of the people here play that game. But it's considered very difficult. And they say when AI defeats a human at Go, then humans are obsolete. And that happened in 2016. Google DeepMind, which was a company that had no revenue, but it was acquired by Google for $600 million, defeated a human at Go. And then people said, OK, games are not the right measure for artificial intelligence. They've used up all the games we can throw in front of it. Games are not the right measure. Let's think about something else. Let's think about artificial general intelligence. You have to mimic everything that a human does. And that's why we see a lot of things that were considered AI before they became commoditized are not called AI. Everything from calculators to search engines to virtual assistants, autonomous driving, natural language processing, chatbots, and so on. All were considered AI. People from, say, 1982, if they could see us today, they would think that anything they envisioned regarding AI, for the most part, has happened. But now, we don't see it. It's called something else. So that the threshold for AI is always just over the hill. That's why one says artificial intelligence is like the air we breathe. We would only notice it if it were gone. Just like a presentation, you would only notice it if it were gone. OK, we're almost there. I see something here. OK, this is good, just connecting this to that. So since AI is so diffuse and we're so accustomed to getting used to it after the fact, the rate of progress is greatly understated. It's working fine here, not here, unfortunately. So wish you could see what I can see. Then we get to the business of AI. And like the question we just had before, jobs. Now, always remember that the media is in the business of making people either frightened or angry. The media makes less money if they make you feel good. Therefore, you'll always see charts saying AI will take your job, and these are the jobs that will go away. And this is the probability they'll go away, and I'll show you one. And we have that sort of frightening effect on people because they show people those charts. And there's a number of problems with that type of mentality and even worrying about that. One, it's not binary. Like if they say there's a 50% chance that your job will go away, it's not that one person will be completely secure and the other will be completely unemployed forever. What is being said is that 50% of the tasks that they do are automated by AI, which means you can do twice as much of the other 50%, probably for twice the pay. And that process isn't new. It's just happening at an accelerated rate. Now, there's another problem with this discussion of jobs being automated by AI. You'll see a list soon that will list a lot of jobs that have a high probability of being automated by AI. Now, there's two problems with a chart like this. One problem that a good number of critics point out, and there's another problem that only, as far as I know, I've been pointing out. The first problem is that these lists show you what jobs are going away. It doesn't show you what jobs are being created, which are more in number. And that's something we'll get into in the panel session after this as well. But you then have a situation where, OK, not everyone can or wants to be a software engineer. Everyone can't just be a data scientist or deep learning expert or something like that. OK, that's fine. But net, more jobs are created than are lost. But then, in the list that you'll see, they list these jobs such as telemarketer, real estate agent, accountant, retail salesperson. These are jobs most likely to be automated. I saw that one thing really stood out to me. Why are only private sector jobs on that list? There are no government jobs on that list. Why no government jobs? Why indeed? Because if one believes some jobs can be automated by AI, you must also believe some government jobs can be automated by AI. Because they're well-formed, they might be repetitive, they might be the same in a lot of cities, states, and countries. And then it naturally follows that that automation would be an immediate savings for the taxpayer too, right? So why is nobody who's talking about job automation talking about that? Well, we could automate those functions, and then we would deliver the same services from the government for lower tax. And that opens up a very interesting set of discussions. Is the human uncompetitive with AI just because the AI is not taxed and the human is? And that is something to really think about, because when you have something like that, you realize that artificial intelligence, since it's not governed by human biases, it's not like the people who make those lists about which jobs are going to be automated. Oh, we can't talk about government jobs. We can't. AI doesn't care. It's not held back by whatever might deter a human from thinking about those types of things. It has no national boundaries. It has no limitation whatsoever about this. And all it takes is for one small country somewhere to say, we are going to automate a lot of government services. We're going to slash the cost of many different things. And that is why we're going to have an AI-based set of government services and be able to lower income tax to very little and become an AI-dominant society. Like a country like Singapore could do that. Estonia could do that. A big country like China is also thinking along those lines. Now, getting to AI and fintech, there's a market map that hopefully we can see. But this is very interesting because in financial services, you get a lot of usage of AI or usage potential of AI because one of the two big fuels of artificial intelligence was data. And very few industries generate as much data as financial services. Therefore, the impact of artificial intelligence in that can be very, very high. And that's why you see artificial intelligence in everything from payments to remittances to lending to insurance. There's a huge amount of opportunity there because there's a tremendous amount of data in insurance. To exchanges and even blockchain-based innovations in fintech, because the other big benefit of distributed ledgers and blockchain is they generate a huge amount of data. Now, there is a lot to think about there because we're thinking, how can something like that be very, very possible? How can it be seemingly so near because a large portion of the jobs and a large portion of the functions in financial services are ones where you cannot really get anything that maybe stays above what artificial intelligence can do. And that's why you get to a point where, okay, can we gut a lot of the large institutions? Do we feel that the unbundling of large banks and other financial institutions is accelerated with AI? Because if you're a large bank, you insert AI in some departments, but just the bureaucratic nature of any large organization is going to make it harder to completely use AI at the speed that it needs to be used. Whereas if you have a fintech startup that is attacking one particular small aspect of a financial service, one particular other aspect in lending, savings account, payments, and so forth, you actually have more vectors under which artificial intelligence can improve that function. Very analogous to how if you broke a large sphere into a number of smaller spheres, the surface area would be so much more. So the ways in which artificial intelligence can diffuse into financial services can be very much more. Does it lead to automation of more jobs? Perhaps. But here's why artificial intelligence is the best thing for anyone of an entrepreneurial mindset, whether you are running a fintech startup or whether you are in an entrepreneurial and somewhat autonomous role in a large financial institution. If someone is saying AI is taking jobs, if you're trained to think, oh, I must have a job, then you might feel frightened. But never think that way, especially in the age of AI. Don't think in terms of jobs created or jobs lost. Think in terms of output generated. Because if someone's job or some category of job is being automated by AI, does that not simultaneously mean that the employer or the boss is saving that money? Therefore, the employer's margin rose a lot. And the automated person's immediate reaction, without any delay, should be, I'm going to compete with my employer. I know that industry very well, and so on. If someone is a fintech entrepreneur, and they can look at what financial services jobs are being automated, it's showing up here, but not here. What financial services jobs are being automated, you would see that the entrepreneur would simply come to a realization, oh, these are all the tasks which I could do for free. I wouldn't have to hire payroll. Hey, it's not too late. Where's the clicker? I need the clicker. It's not too late. I can show you visual aid of everything that we just talked about. OK, thanks. All right, so going back. OK, so parallel computing, big data, two exponential trends we talked about. Linear versus exponential. Always think of this about any technology, anything you see anywhere. Linear, it's behind the exponential trend for the majority of the time, then shoots ahead. It's always exponential, and people not watching are taken by surprise. And here there were two exponential trends, so it's really a surprise. AI keeps getting redefined, as we talked about. Gary Kasparov losing to artificial intelligence. Look at his face and look at the face of the audience. They were told that this was when the world was going to change. This was 1997. Jeopardy we talked about. It's defeating the two best human players very quickly. Even the facsimile they have for the supercomputer to be the same size as the humans is not necessary, just so that it becomes, anthropomorphized. But okay, Jeopardy 2011, and then Go. The game Go, defeated by AlphaGo 2016. These are all things that used to be called AI. Because they succeeded, they're not called AI. People from the previous AI peak, 1982, would have said we have a lot of AI because most of these things were out of reach then, all except calculators, but now are available. AI becomes the air we breathe. We would only lose it if it were gone, or notice it if it were gone. AI and Fintech. Fintech market map. You see all these companies that have raised money. These are the biggest venture-backed companies doing artificial intelligence to disrupt a particular financial services. So even if you consider old fintech, to the extent there is such a thing, so pre-2015 fintech, the diffusion of AI into that now creates new fintech. You see all these various verticals that we are under. Everything from credit scoring, which is, of course, all about data, but why is it expensive? Why do you have to pay for your own credit report? How many people's salaries are being paid by that? It should be free. It should be AI. Right? Personal assistance, everything else that you do. And then see the big section on the left-hand side, regulatory compliance and fraud detection. This is sometimes called its own shortened form, RegTech. But if there's so much regulatory complexity designed to make it too complicated or to bore humans to death, artificial intelligence doesn't care. So you have all these regulatory tech companies there because artificial intelligence can dance circles around it. OK, so now the most fun part, AI and jobs. You see this chart from McKinsey? Every dot's not labeled, but these are the professions in the US. The vertical axis is ability to automate, and the horizontal axis is rough hourly wage. If you're below the line on the lower left-hand side, let's say you're highly vulnerable to automation. But as I was saying, the entrepreneur should look at this and say, don't worry about, oh, my job is going to go away. What will I do? What will I do? Go to the lower left-hand corner and see, oh, these are all the functions I can get done for free. Can I devise a business model that would have used people doing all these roles in the past, but now I don't have to pay anyone? And there are companies in Silicon Valley that might have $10 million of revenue and only 3 human employees, because the other 47 humans worth of work is done by AI, which can be offshore, and therefore they qualify as an offshore foreign company in a tax haven outside of US taxation too. That's the second disruption of AI. Okay, now this is a chart that you found funny. So this is the more mainstream media type of list, jobs automatable by AI, designed to scare people. And the two problems are, they don't show the job being created, but the bigger problem, only private sector jobs on this list. No government jobs. No government jobs on a list like this, even though AI, of course, will not make that distinction at all. It will simply attack what is unproductive relative to what AI can do, and we know what that means. And look at how the job market shifts around. In the United States, there was a time in 1840 where 70% of people worked in food production. 70%. That means 2 people had to work to produce food for themselves and 1 more person. Now it's shifted down to 2%. This is because of technologies of various types. You could call this automation. From there, you went to manufacturing. It rose somewhat and then dipped somewhat, but it's not a dramatic decline the way it's made out to be. The real decline was in agricultural jobs, but nobody complains about that because those weren't very good jobs. And now you see creation of service jobs. And the worry with AI is, well, service jobs will go down. That's never happened before, but now they'll go down. Will that really happen? No. Don't think in terms of jobs created. Think in terms of output generated. Just one thing really quick about how artificial intelligence fixed the manufacturing sector. Yes, the jobs went down, but look at how the output generated keeps rising. It's that same exponential parabola that we like to see everywhere. And the doubling periods are getting shorter and shorter, 26 years, 21 years, 13 years. People are doing more and more with less. And the same will be seen in the service sector. And one of the closing points, we have 1 minute left. And this is another way to think about it. Don't think in terms of one for one, because that's another form of missing linear versus exponential. Job loss from AI is only visible when it's roughly comparable to human productivity, like 1.2x, 1.5x human productivity. This robot took this person's job, or this robot has replaced this bank teller or something. What about when AI is very much more productive than humans? 10x, 20x, 30x. It's not replacing human jobs. It's doing work that was never done before because you could never have hired that many people to do that work. For example, customer support. When humans were doing it, you still have to be on hold for an hour and it's only 8 to 5, like when you call the IRS or Social Security Administration. If you have a chatbot, it's 24/7, unlimited supply. Therefore, it's doing more work than humans could doing because it has unlimited availability and 0 hold times. That's the way to think about it. It created something that was not possible before. So that makes it the closest thing to free money that has in fact existed, especially if used by the entrepreneur or enterprising executive at a big firm. And now we've run out of time. If you're interested in this subject and automation of AI through government and taxation of AI instead of taxation of humans and all that, I've written a book. It's given away for free. It's at that URL below, about 450,000 views. And I hope some of you can look at that because there's a lot more data about monetization of technological deflation, what AI does to jobs, reform of government, and so on. And since most tech startups are trying to disrupt a $2 or $3 billion market, now think bigger. With AI, you can disrupt the $25 trillion market, which is government. Something to think about. So anyway, thanks for bearing with me. And we did, in fact, get through all the slides. So that's good. Thank you very much.